Hi, everybody. It's Lee Milteer, and I have with me today someone I really admire and very, very much like, who is the author of a number of great books. One of them is called Mind Capture, and his new book that we're going to talk about today is called Trailblazers, Leadership Lessons from 12 Pioneers Who Beat the Odds and Influenced Millions of People. Now, we have with us Tony, and I'm going to see if I can say his name right, Rubleski.
There you go. You got it. Thank you, Lee.
Wow. Okay.
Woo!
Second time. Yes. And I followed Tony for a very long time. And let me just tell you a little something about him because he should be on your radar. Tony is the president of the Mind Capture Group, which favorite title for me. His message is designed to help people capture more minds and profits. He's a very in-demand speaker who's given hundreds of presentations in the past decade. He's a strategic business coach, a global event promoter for over 20 years in the personal development industry. His second book, the Mind Capture series, went #1 in 3 different business categories with Amazon. And folks, that's not a real easy thing to do, 3 categories. He's received stunning reviews from a wide range of leaders in marketing, sales, psychology, and academia, and multiple New York Times bestselling authors. His latest book, as I just said, Trailblazers, hit #1 on Amazon and in the business category. He has been featured in different media outlets from Toastmasters International Magazine, the Detroit Free Press, Fox TV News, ABC, NBC, CNN, NPR, and Entrepreneurs Magazine Radio. In addition, he has served as a faculty member for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So, welcome, Tony.
Hey, thank you, Lee.
So let's get to talking about why people should invest in your book, Trailblazers. So in the age of media scandals involving high-level leaders and celebrities, what did 12 unique leaders do to follow their passion despite heavy criticism to achieve success and positive influence millions of people? So why did you pick these people?
Well, it wasn't easy, and here's the thing. I look for what I call patterns. I've lost track. It's over 125 interviews at this point since we've done media. I'm always taping. I've interviewed you, Lee, and
Yes,
I still have that.
Yes,
At some point, we will unleash that, and for future work, and we put that back out there. I always let you know, because I love to promote my guests. When I do interviews, it's all about them. I do a lot of homework on them. I know we did Reclaim the Magic. I read the book. I made sure, I believed in the message, and we got on the phone. It was very natural because I love what I do. So these Trailblazers, you whittle it down to these 12, and I have a 13th bonus Trailblazer. It was hard. There are some very well-known names that did not make it in the book. There were also a couple of up-and-comers that aren't known, and that's by design. I'm like, these are people that you kind of be on the lookout. Like if you caught like a Led Zeppelin concert in 1967. You went, oh my gosh, these guys are going to be huge. And then a year or two later, they become the biggest band in the world. So I'm always trying to scout talent. And I feel very fortunate and blessed that I get around people that are bringing me new manuscripts, new thought leaders that are up and coming. Some are very well known. But the deal is this. I will let your audience know. I made an announcement last week. There's going to be a volume 2 already. We're going to come out with a follow-up to this book because we've got all these great interviews. There's been a lot of people that are getting great reaction. They enjoy it. And I've got too many other good interviews I want to share. So it was not easy. There are a couple that are my favorite personal interviews in the book. So, hey, as editor, as Gene would say, I'm a benevolent dictator, Gene Simmons. I have final edited authority. I will tell you one thing that by design I'm excited for, not only this book as we look ahead, is I want even more eclectic people. I'll say this, Lee, the 2 biggest things I've heard from people is we like the book, but hey, we need more ladies, and where's the diversity? I've been taping all these great folks for many years. So I definitely want it, not because it's politically correct. I have friends of, coaching clients all over the world, different faiths, persuasions. I don't care. I love people. So this next book is going to be like, whoa, I mean, very eclectic. And some of the people that are fans that have read Trailblazers, I've said, look, send me names of people for consideration. I want fans to send me their input to see if we can come up with a couple interviews that are more fan-centric, not just what I think is important.
Well, I want everybody to pay attention here. I not only interviewed Tony just because the book is good, but I also interviewed him as an example of how each and every one of us, no matter what you do, whether you're a CPA, whether you're in the martial arts business, that you're constantly interviewing people in your industry or in contact with people in your industry. And then this is this is a product you should duplicate. I mean, you should take Tony's lead and definitely record these interviews and have them transcribed, put them into a book. It gives you credibility. It's also the power of association. And Tony,
Yep.
you know very well the power of association. One of my first books, I didn't realize it at the time, was called Success is an Inside Job. And there was lots and lots of quotes.
Love it, Lee. Oh my God. Sorry,
Okay.
one of my favorites.
So I didn't realize until later when a new publisher who's selling the foreign rights actually said to me, he said, Lee, do you realize you associated yourself with the most powerful names in history? And that on an unconscious level, people who read your book who had no clue who Lee Milteer was, all of a sudden thought Lee Milteer was somebody because she had access to all these people and you had read all these hundreds of books.
Correct. Yep. And one of my favorite quotes I cannot resist, because I'm honored to have the chance through you interviewing me, Lee, is there are no victims, only volunteers. I can't tell you how many people when I throw that out or say it to even my kids are like, Dad, I'm like, think about what that's coming from. And I give you full credit. It's so powerful. And we live in now a society, as we tape this, that is so sensitive, so PC. Everyone's on edge. And I say, you know what? There's a joy and a relief in personal responsibility. And some people are awakening to it. I'm sure your audience gets it, but we need more people to catch that flame and go, okay, if it's to be, it's kind of up to me. You're going to take arrows. These trailblazers, the commonalities, to kind of go back to your first thought and question here is they took intense risks, from some of the names we'll get to, but it was not easy. 10 years later, they're on Ellen or Oprah, or they've made it to the big stage. But those first 9.5 years, or 9 years, 364 days, were brutal. And, Lee, you've had all sorts of setbacks. I've had a ton. I've had some recently. I revealed the boot camp. And I had a couple people like, whoa, we didn't know that. I don't go out there and publicize that. It's a personal choice. It's discretion. There's other people. There's other lives involved. But the story is if they only knew. The same with these trailblazers. And some of the stories, when I pull these interviews out, they tell me things that they're like, I can't believe I've ever said that. I don't want to do an easy interview. I want to know when they went bankrupt the second, third time. Their wife or their husband said, I'm out, good luck, you're an idiot. And they said, you know what? After 6 months of being in the depression, they said, one day at a time. Maybe they read one of your books. Maybe they read a damn book. Maybe they saw a TEDx talk. Maybe they saw a YouTube video. The day that changes their life or turns you around, as the late, great Jim Rohn used to say.
Yes.
We come out of these seasons.
Well, I think we're at a time of unprecedented reality that we're all dealing with. A rudeness and a difficulty with people that I've never experienced in my life before. Maybe they thought it, but they didn't actually say it, and now they're just saying it and proud of it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the 7 key characteristics and name some of your trailblazers that have in common and why they're important. And I'm going to guess one of them is I'm just doing my thing, and I'm just doing my thing. Yep. I don't care what the world thinks.
Yep. Well, the 7 characteristics, and we can hone in a couple. I'll give the list real quick here. Is number 1, they have intense curiosity, like a small child. 2, they're persistent. 3, they had this vision. 4, they're lifelong learners. Number 5, they solve problems. Okay. 6, this is unique. They focus on their strengths more than their weaknesses. And 7, they have thick skin. So these 7 are not, and it's not like these are mystery characteristics, but I'm always seeking inductive reasoning. What are patterns? What are the same things that keep showing up? And out of the 100+ odd interviews, many of these interviews had 4 or 5 of them right there present, or in the books or the research I did before we taped. But there seem to be these 7 that always aligned. And many of the trailblazers use most of them in tandem, or they're really good at 3 or 4, and there's 1 or 2 that they keep working on. But Lee, some of the trailblazers, to give your audience around the world, is Dan Kennedy, obviously. Yeah. And there's a funny, fast story. I asked Dan for like 10 years to interview him. I'm busy. No, you don't need to do that. He's interviewed me 3 times. And I'm thinking, really? So I finally got him before Info Summit in Denver in November of 15 in his hotel room with a video crew. I finally got to tape him. But it took 18, 19 years of me asking, hey, Dan, when am I going to finally interview you? So I said, finally we got it. And of course, with his influence on me and his reach around the world, he was immediately. I said, Dan, well, now that we got that tape, when we go to New York, you're in. Oh, thanks. Not a big deal. I'm like, it's a big deal to me to get him to reveal some things and finally let really pull some stuff out of Dan. I've always wanted to. John Stossel, he's on Fox Television now.
Yes, I know John.
Yeah,
Not personally, just on TV.
Yeah, I would say arguably he has the most reach in the age of fragmentation. I think his show Stossel has like 10, 11 million viewers. I mean, the numbers change. That's a huge amount of viewership in an age of massive fragmentation. We have a new assistant coach for the Detroit Red Wings, Dan Bilesman. A lot of people say that's your best interview. I interviewed him when he won the Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins 9 years ago. And he was just talking about coming off that as a rookie head coach. So to see him come full circle this year, he was hired by Detroit, my favorite team, to be an assistant coach. Think of that. He's the king of the world, wins the Stanley Cup. 9 years later, he's gone through a couple coaching jobs, and that's a brutal business, being a head coach in an NFL or NHL sport. Now he's now an assistant with the team he beat as a rival. There's a lot of symbolism there, but I'm glad as a Red Wings fan we got him back to the right team. A couple other Trailblazers, Brian Tracy.
Love
Sally
Brian.
Hogshead. Yeah, Brian.
I actually know Brian, yes.
Well, yeah, Sally Hogshead. You know, her work at How the World Sees You.
Wonderful.
Oh my gosh. Every time I interview Sally, I'm like, grab a pen and notes and, just start taping because she just throws it. I know she's spoken at many of Dan's events, but just these Trailblazers are just unique. A couple other ones. Dave Liniger founded Remax, the large real estate, I would say, iconic brand. I've interviewed him many times, and these interviews to me, Lee, are simply fascinating because, again, they give me the luxury and the gift of their time and their attention. I always show up extremely well prepared. I will say Stossel's interview was a little odd. I mean, we make the downloads of the full unedited interviews available when you get the book, but when you hear the first couple minutes, it's clunky. And I'm sitting there like, what am I doing interviewing him? I have to tell you, it warped my perception. I thought I was confident. I'm thinking, I grew up watching 2020. He's been on the air with Barbara Walters, Hugh Downs, Peter Jennings. These are things I grew up as a child and as a young adult watching him in front of 40 or 50 million people. And I thought, what am I doing on the phone with this guy? I'm asking Stossel questions. But I thought, you know what, Tony, you've worked hard. You're not afraid to ask. You do your homework, step up, and once you get through the initial couple minutes of nerves, treat him like you're having a cup of coffee. Lee, you've been around celebrities. When you get skittish or weird, or you've seen this with celebrities, they get awkward. If you kind of joke with them, you have a little fun, you say, hey, that's a sharp-looking outfit, and you're real and genuine, they're like, oh my gosh, they're normal. They're not starstruck. So this is the lesson I think for all your listeners. They're going to meet famous people per se in the public eye, is the more human you are with them and the more you relate quickly, the more they're like, oh my gosh, this person's cool. They're not going to be like, can I get your autograph and take a bunch of pictures? Because they're so used to people freaking out. When they find a genuine human that's more understanding, they're like, oh my, that's rare. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I used to do a celebrity TV show in Toronto, Canada, and I actually saw the good, the bad, and the ugly of all of that. And and everything you're saying is true. And I was so numb to it. I was just, a regular person to them, and they really love that. But I think one of the things you've done, Tony, is you've made yourself a celebrity, which was the point of all this hard work, because we're so celebrity obsessed in our reality. So for everybody listening today, questions are the way we have success in life. So you have to ask yourself, what are you doing to connect yourself to other big names? Because that will help you get clients, customers, and patients all the time. So you should do that. Okay, so you say in your book that the road to successful leadership, and by the way, we haven't made really clear that this book really is about leadership. Correct. And everybody listening today is a leader. So talk to us about how that we all have failures and we all have successes, and how do a lot of these people deal with rejection? Because every day there's some kind of rejection. Yeah,
I think there's a couple things. Lee, you and I are fans of the 4 agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz's work. Okay, the second was don't take anything personal. It's hard. I tell audiences and even my team is I hear a lot more no's than I do yes. And sometimes when I'm out touring, you have people line up and they're like, oh my gosh, you make it look easy and everyone likes you and it's got to be easy. And sometimes I'll pull them aside, and a couple of folks that are inquisitive say, you know what, this is a lot of work. Grateful to be here. Also know that when I teach like referral marketing, for example, in other companies, I say, look, I get tons of referrals. I teach it. But I would say 85% of those referrals don't convert right away, Lee. they're busy, there's a committee, they're going in the direction, not a fit, and I have to follow up. There's a lot of no's there on high-level prospects. So the point is, you look at this, why they don't quit. I think the common thing is they're bullheaded. And when you hear no all the time, there comes a point where you say, look, I don't want to live like this anymore. You know, Jim taught us, and you're a little bit farther down the line in speaking than I am, is that the day that turns your life around. And many times you need that setback to produce the breakthrough you didn't even know you could expand out of. You didn't know there was other self, this higher level of discipline and focus and I would say hustle that you thought, how did I pull this out? Usually at the moment of crisis. Dan and I have had a couple conversations where he knew I was going through things personally. He could just read it. He's like, Rubleski, you'll be all right. You know how to make money, you'll be all right. And you know, relationships, business partnerships, you're constantly in a state of learning. That's a Bruce Lee quote. And I think entrepreneurs, whether if you're brand new to your coaching program, Lee, or you're maybe you got some folks 10, 20 years that have been coaching with you, they're constantly in that state of learning to say, you know what, maybe right now my business is upscaling and we're cruising along good, but economies can flatten and they can decline. And I will tell you this, I'm going to digress here a second, what bothers me immensely about this economy as we tape. Apathy and complacency. I'm seeing so many businesses, not your listeners, your coaching clients, are saying, look, this is the time we keep harvesting and we get way ahead when things change economically. But I just see people loafing. They're taking their customers for granted. Dan and I talked about this a few weeks ago. Employees are just kind of like, whatever, we can go anywhere we want. And it's disturbing because we forget that hustle. It's almost like certain industries I'm brought in, it's too easy right now. And I go, wait, when things change, you're going to see people when there's jobs being let go or customers pull the reins and they get pickier or they go to Amazon, they simply just point and click around your business, you're going to get more serious. So I think everyone that's listening right now, you're very fortunate. You're thinking proactively. Something that's very contrary and a lot of these trailblazers do is they're thinking about markets that are extremely opposite of what's going on. So right now the economy's cranking. Think of a couple industries that you could maybe jump into they're having a tough time. They're counter-cyclical. In blue ocean strategy, you start getting some beachhead there and you start working with them because if your main customer starts to slow down, you're already positioned where everyone's not looking. You're in a totally different niche. Again, going back to what Dan taught me as a speaker, how do you play in 3 vertical markets without those 3 groups knowing you're doing it? I play in 4, Lee, pretty well. And that's pure Dan. That's a lot of marketing, following up, 13 years full-time doing a lot of writing, building relationships. But I know if 1 or 2 is slowing down, I better be thinking about the other vertical market or 2 to fish in so I don't starve or my business doesn't go under because 1 or 2 verticals I'm completely relying on. So I know that's a little bit deeper, but I know your group is much more advanced, and that's rarely. So it's nice to talk a little deeper down the rabbit hole.
Yes, and we can never take things for granted because if there was a 9/11 again or something like that, everything can change on a dime. I know the original 9/11, I was making over $1 million a year and had huge clients like Walt Disney, AT&T,
Yep.
Ford Global, and within 17 days I had 0 clients.
Wow.
Everyone canceled, and I had worked for them 10 and 12 years, and
Yep.
it was just, we're not doing anything, we're canceling all of our contracts, and thank goodness I saved money. But for a whole year, I just went nuts because I had nothing to do. So I started working on a book, but then I came up with, so out of every crisis, there is always a gift.
Correct.
And so my job is always to go, all right, this bad thing has happened, but this is a gift. Something good will come out of this only because I'm going to make something good come out of this.
Correct.
So that's our attitude, and it always should be our attitude. So so we're talking about the people in your book. So what are some of the productive habits and persistent traits that helps everybody, instead of this instant thinking thing that, instant results that everybody's expecting, these kind of traits. In your other books, particularly this one,
Yeah.
you have chapters that I really, really love, like permission to go on the offense, things like, persistence, you call it the lost art of persistence, which I really loved. Innovation trumps, being mediocre. Create your own stimulus plan. I mean, the things that you teach are really, for any business, it's the right, what I call the right thinking process.
Well, Lee, thank you for that. And, let's go back to the core. If you don't have the right thinking, the 4 inches between your ears, it's all over. The best product or service, if it's not having conviction or you believe, it dies. It never sees the light of day. In the book that you've referenced, the book before the Trailblazer book, was written during the Great Recession. Yep, How to Awaken Your Entrepreneurial Genius, book 3. And it was the book that I was all excited. I just come off of book number 2, charting really high. We did a smaller U.S. tour. This was 08 and 09, and the recession came. And it was written out of the ashes of 09 into 2010, when everyone was like, what do we do? And I went back and reread it when we did the anniversary edition last year, and I edited it. I got all fired up again. I'm like, oh my gosh, who wrote this? And it was interesting to read back, because sometimes we judge ourselves too hard. But there was like this young, sort of like as Les Brown would say, I was hungry. I was hungry to get out of Michigan and say, look, if we're going to get this recession to stop, we got to pick ourselves back up, dust ourselves off, and get back to work. And it's going to be a lot tougher. You're going to hear a lot more no's. You're going to hear people being very afraid. They're going to think you're crazy. Haven't you heard about the recessions? Well, we've been through depressions. We've been through other cyclical recessions. We've always made it out. And those cycles are designed to also create innovation. Some of our best industries are made during Great Depressions, Lee. It forces us to dig deeper in our entrepreneur culture, the Akashic record, our other self. We go inside and we say, oh my gosh, I have no other choice. And usually at that moment of crisis, the other self, people call it the Holy Spirit and other faiths and cultures, the ideas come. Because we're forced to move. There are no other options. When your back is against the wall and the creditors are calling, or you've been served, you have a cancer diagnosis, or you've lost a key business partner, you can say, look, I can take years and my life is over and wallow. At some point, I go through the grieving process and I say, get up. All right, what's one step I can do today? What's one phone call? What's one package I can mail? What's one chapter I can write? What's one blog? What's one video? And it's progressions, Lee. It's dominoes. And the problem we have, I say this to a lot of clients, in the age of Google, YouTube, and all the memes, everybody wants a 60-second answer to a 10-year marketing problem. Everyone wants it. They want that magic bullet. Perry Marshall, everyone's like, how do I solve it now? But I haven't got time. Well, you've had this problem with referrals and customer service for a decade. You want me to come in 3 days or 3 hours and solve it? It's not going to happen. And the problem is we're in such a fast point-and-click spoiled world where everyone can go to Amazon and order it now. Amazon now has got it where they can deliver same day. And there's nothing wrong with convenience, but expectations, particularly in the marketing realm, in the mindset, are so out of whack. Something that I see these trailblazers do is they're very good at doing what I call going dark. Dan's taught me that. You've taught me that, Lee, where you just, no one can find you. And it ticks my children off, former partners I've had, where they're like, oh, Tony's dark. Yep, I have a project to get done, or I have to create a PowerPoint, or I have to create, copy. I have to do a press release. You will not find me. And Rome could be burning down. The apocalypse could be here, and fire out of the sky. I'd still be at my keyboard. I'm not as good as Dan, but I modeled him. I've modeled your efficiencies. And you get around people that are playing at a higher level. For example, Dave Linegar in the book, founder of Remax. I've interviewed him multiple times live on stage and done phone interviews. He still reads and does personal development every day. He said in the book, I've read Think and Grow Rich probably 40 or 50 times. He used to teach Think and Grow Rich to Remax brokers all over the world. I remember a year and a half ago, I was getting ready to speak with him in Phoenix. I did a program with him a week earlier in Denver, and all the vice presidents come up to me in the back and they go, what'd you do to Dave? I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good, Lee. What do you mean? When I did the CEO and the founder, I go, what do you mean? They go, well, on the corporate jet flying down, he's got us watching Les Brown videos. Here's Think and Grow Rich. We're watching Tony Robbins on the airplane. I said, good. He goes, we haven't seen him that excited in quite a while. I'm like, there is a guy. It's not about hubris, making more money because he needs to. This guy acts like a small child that's learning and growing to serve more people. That's what the media doesn't talk about. It's to influence more. It's to give that edge to those people that are, their livelihoods are dependent on Remax growing in the future, not stagnating. You got a leader at the helm, and he's not perfect. Him and Gail, his wife, the co-founders of Remax, their stories alone in the book, Lee, people go, damn. And I always go, thank you, Lord, we captured this and we recorded it. Because some people will not believe it, but you hear it straight from their mouth. Let me give you a quick example when I interviewed him live the second time. He said to me, I go, Dave, tell me in the 70s when you thought Remax was going to go under. He goes, Tony, and I'm paraphrasing, I just had a divorce. I'm sitting there going, was it all worth it? Gail and I get married. Gail Linegar is the co-founder of Remax. It's his new wife. He goes, I looked at her one day and I said, look, hon, I got to hit the road. You've got to deal with all the bill collectors, all the creditors. We're broke. And if Remax is going to make it, I have to get into an actual RV and drive city to city and sell franchise by franchise by franchise. I looked him on the stage. I thought, that's a brave man, because he's already gone through one divorce. There's always the guilt of that. And he had children. I've gone through it myself. Now he's got a new wife, and he's got to tell her, look, things ain't so great right now, honey. You got to have some faith. No one else believes us. And he gets in and he builds this Remax brand, this empire, city by city, face to face by the founder. And Lee, these things are inspiring because it gives us perspective. So, you know what? My situation's nowhere near that bad. And you look at entrepreneurs that are starting out, I'm trying to reveal these nuggets to say, look, don't quit on a bad day. Give it all you can. There comes a point where you have to say, look, I got to adjust the plan, maybe get a new partner, get some different thinking here. But so many people quit too soon. And these companies like Remax, broadcasters like John Stossel, who was on ABC, is a stutterer. He is known to have a huge stuttering problem. Imagine you're on live television, 1985. Barbara Walters is there, and you see the red light, and you go, and you get stuck. I can't imagine the pressure, live television with a stuttering problem. Those are things most people don't see. They think, oh, he's won all these Emmys. He's always on television. He's got the golden life. No, he deals with intense fear, and he overcomes it every single day. Those are trailblazers.
Absolutely. And there's a message here that I hope you all heard, and that was this continuous take action, not sitting around feeling sorry for yourself, not using excuses, not being a victim, but actually, I'm going to do what other people will not do. And, you know, I think that really is one of the important things about your book in the Trailblazers. And again, if you haven't got this book, folks, it's called Trailblazers, Leadership Lessons from 12 Trailblazers Who Beat the Odds and Influence Millions. And since all of us influence millions, what we have to do, I believe, and tell me what you think, Tony, is I think we need to take the high road and be true leaders. In other words, it's very easy to get into the muck and fist fight it out on Facebook, because trust me, I'm tempted every day. But I have to, you know, pull myself back and say, will I be embarrassed by this comment tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, Lee, I think it dovetails into the seventh trait. You have to have thick skin. I spend the most time when I'm out live and on the tour going forward is on the seventh trait. And I think it's so true because social media is now permeated to most of our lives. If you have children or you have clients that are Gen X or millennials down, they're raised on having the phone or the laptop right there. You just almost can't get around it. And what I'm seeing is lately, the last month, a lot of people are getting off, like Facebook, like, I'm done. Then they come back on a couple weeks later. It's how do you manage that interruption? A lot of my core teaching, as you know with Dan, is mind capture. How do you stand out? And I didn't know 13, 14 years ago, writing about the topic and getting around other experts like Sally Hogshead and her research, it would get so bad. And I look at it and say, you know what? I look at it from the perspective of, you're going to make a move online. There's always what I call those cowboy keyboards or keyboard cowboys that are these trolls, literally, that have nothing better to except pick apart what you're trying to do. And there's a couple great options here, some bonus material. It's called unfriend. It's
and
called
block.
Exactly, right on cue.
I love blocking.
Yep, and it goes back to also what, you know, the 4 agreements. Don't take anything personal, be impeccable with your word, always do your best. And those are 3 of the 4. And I think a lot of times, you know, my mission many years ago was positivity. I'm about relentless positivity. Now I've become more pragmatic. Dan would probably agree. In my 40s, there's been some interesting things that have shaped me that I'm not as, oh my God, life's exactly perfect. It's called adversity. However, I do not want to have society or the media beat out the small child in me that's curious, that has the joy. And if you're not laughing every day, I say, look, if you're not laughing your ass off at least once every day, you're in the wrong business. And if you go online for 5-10 minutes, there's a whole lot to laugh at, because some of the things I see in the humor, it's what you seek and what you focus on you get. And if some people say, you know, my friends are so negative, you need to find new friends.
Yes.
You've got to sort. You have to defend your mind at all costs. All the great trailblazers historically, the Joan of Arcs to the saints to the leaders have always said, you are who you associate with. Definitely face to face, who you coach with, who you mentor. Also, it's really stepped up to who you are online with. And let's be candid, it's very addictively. There are days I'm like, I'm not touching it. I post up, we don't go near it. Or if I'm speaking or in an airplane, you can't find me. So it's really trying our best to keep managing the fact that this is going to integrate and infiltrate more and more the technology and social media. I'll caution a lot of your clients. You say a lot of them, we'll go back to about a half hour ago. My business is different. We're a law firm. We don't have to be online. Please know, many of the trailblazers in the book, Jeffrey Gitomer is one of them.
Yes.
Jeffrey Gitomer was way ahead of all the other speakers in our industry doing social media 10, 12 years ago. He's in his 70s now. He's sold millions of books. Jeffrey speaks all over the world. He could have just said, I'm done. He was like, no, we need to keep progressing. If I want my message to get out there and to positively help people, he acted like a teenager. He's like, you can't ignore social media anymore. You can delegate. You can have people help you. I have a 23-year-old and a 27-year-old that coordinate my online marketing and my social media and branding. They're young, Lee. And I sometimes in meetings have to listen to them. I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. But the next wave of speakers, the next wave of buyers in industry, they're going to be the millennials and Gen Xers. They're already raised on digital. I cannot ignore their communication. The timeless topics of direct marketing, direct response, salesmanship, copy, all work. You translate them into social media. See, a lot of people get fooled. It's the great marketing messages that you move into the medium to deliver it. But the core blocking and tackling that you and I have been around, and Dan's work, and Jay Abraham, another trailblazer, that's timeless, universal stuff, Lee. But the technology and the reach has changed. So that's a little out there. But this audience, I believe you work with, they're far, far ahead. But please do not abandon social media. Have people that help you like I do. I know, Lee, you have people that help you. And watch it. If it's a day where it's bringing you down, then step away from it. Say, no, I'm not looking at Facebook or Instagram today, and continue on with other projects. Because it can suck you down to a rabbit hole of darkness, or it can make you laugh your butt off on the other hand, too. So
that is a message I really like in your book about don't deny the reality of the future.
mm-hmm.
I'm always saying to Dan Kennedy, and Dan and I are great friends, and I love him very much, but I'm always saying, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. It is out, and it's here, and it's better to work with it, monetize it, and leverage it versus just criticize it. So yes, we use social media, and there are days that I go dark, and in fact, I'm always amazed that, somebody will message you on like Facebook, and if you don't answer because you're not there for 3 days, they're livid. And I'm like, I haven't been on the thing for 3 days. You could have posted anything. I don't know.
I'm actually working.
Don't care.
Yeah, I have things and projects to do. And one of my teachers, he's from the Eastern philosophy, and you'll appreciate it. His name is Sadhguru. He's from India. And he talks about, Facebook has become what I call nose book. And I thought, oh my God, everyone's so nosy. And 95% of the people, I know that sounds very broad, don't ever engage on social media. They're watching. And it allows you to reach more people. The Facebook ad platform can allow you to test in real time and do split ads at such an astronomically high rate that Ogilvy and the old masters would be like, how can you do that? So there's some cool things. However, the other side of the temptation is people are just kind of lurking around. And so many people don't engage because it goes back to the seventh trait. The thick skin's not there. First arrow, the first negative book review, their world is in tatters. Lee, you said you posted something this morning. I caught it when I was posting up during my normal times about how you had interviewed somebody, and then you got a negative review for one of your books from the same person. Is this the right thing okay? Yeah. And it struck me because I'm like, wow, here's the thing I loved about it. It was real what you revealed. A lot of people would have not shared that. But it's extremely authentic. You cannot make it up. But that doesn't prohibit you from saying, you know what, I'm still going to go on there and promote what I do. I'm not going to go, I need to close my accounts down now. Or I'm going to be mad at that person forever because they gave me a negative review. Welcome to adversity. Everyone listening right now, if you're new into the world of Lee Milteer or Dan or other influencers, or you pick up my book, if you're young yet, the gift of age, you get a shortcut. They get your wisdom, Lee Milteer. They get maybe a fusion of mine, a lot of Dan Kennedy, but you're getting years and decades of experience to prepare you. So when it arrives, you go, oh, I was told this could happen. Oh, it actually happens. When you make big moves, Dan taught me 10 years ago. He said, Tony, as you climb the ladder, you will get shot in the ass with more arrows. Be prepared. And I'm like, from Midwestern or Michigan to Ohio, we appreciate that. And he was not lying, Lee.
No.
What a rocket ride. It's been 13 years doing this full time. A lot of great days, some very tough days, but the tough days make you appreciate the good days even more. And like I said, I've been humbled. This year has been on so many fronts, just a strange episode of the Twilight Zone. In having some success and working hard, I'm in a different place and space to say, I appreciate it. When I get a standing ovation, sometimes I sit there and I go, thank you. I actually look and take it and go, this could be the last one. Take things for granted. And a couple of my mentors said, never take that gift when you teach and someone gives you that attention. They stand up. Don't let it get to your ego. Just absorb it. Because you've done something and you get off the stage, you could get in an Uber or get on an airplane, it could be over. So I look at every day, the present moment at a deeper level at my age now with so much more gratitude. And so you know what? Whatever comes at me, I've been through so much crazy, Milteer, but I wouldn't trade it. I would not trade it. I think Zig said something, you've spoken, you remember the late great Zig, that when you want to come screaming at the end of your days and you get to heaven, you want to go, wow, what a wild ride that was. I think Zig had said it a little differently. That's how I live my life. My kids know that. I want to go, man, Dad's been at it. He's failed. He's had some tragedy. He's had some breakups. He's moved. There's been some pain, but he never stopped. And he loved it. And he laughed. And he enjoyed it, regardless of the arrows. Like Dan warned me, they're coming faster now, Lee, but I can get better at ducking them.
Yes.
Well, keep moving.
Yes, I'm sure somebody's out there very jealous. Oprah Winfrey, and I'm not sure if I can get the quote exactly right, said something to the effect of, I cherish all my failures because they have made me the person I am today. Something like that.
That is extremely profound.
Yes.
And then when you're making bigger moves, your comfort level, you're going to stretch. You're solving bigger problems. These sound familiar. These are some of the traits. You're going to have the vision to see it when nobody does. The event we just did, some of the people in that room were like, whoa, how'd you get these speakers? Well, there's a lot of investment in relationships over years. There's the ask. There's people that we had to reschedule that said, all right, if you reschedule, call me right away. We had Tammy Bunnell. She's the highest ranking executive in real estate of Exit Realty. 30,000 people report to her. Lee, we talked about this before we hit record. She wants to take it to 100,000 agents and 3,500 offices. Having watched her for an hour, her focus in her keynote, I wouldn't doubt she's going to do it. In that room, I think would look back in 5, 10, 15 years ago, we were in that room. She saw the vision. She was so clear, so convinced. She's had 7 world records in selling in a very male-dominated industry. And she has not only just busted the glass ceiling, she wants to rebuild the ceiling and say, you know what, no more. And I just thought, wow, I won't be shocked in 10 or 15 years if that vision comes to pass. But you've got to keep pressing. And you've got to say, you know what, it's not always going to be easy, but you know what, what's the alternative? Go for it.
So you're a big fan of Napoleon Hill. Obviously, you've worked with the Napoleon Hill organization and gotten awards from them. So the quote is, I believe, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe they can achieve. And so this leads me into my next question, because one of the things that I got from your book was the visionary ability that all the people that you interviewed. And so let's just talk about how important that we as entrepreneurs, our real job in life is to be visionaries of what we want and see the big picture. Yes?
Absolutely. Let's go back to Dan for a minute. I talk about this. I did Friday in Chicago at the boot camp we hosted. I said, you know, one of my central mentors in the book, Trailblazer Dan Kennedy, tells a story in the 70s. He was given a seminar in Phoenix to a real estate group, and he looked out and his car was being towed. I remember hearing this in Cleveland like 10 or 15 years ago, new to the herd, the inner circle. I'm in the audience going, are you kidding me? He's like, hold on. He stops the seminar and he runs out and grabs his CDs and his books or his cassettes at the time, runs back in and proceeds to not only to keep training, but sells all of his product. And I thought, you know what, you've got to have some vision when your life literally is being rolled away from you to continue on with the mission. And I've never forgotten that story. And I look at it and go, wow, you have to see things out 5 or 10 years. The story I mentioned that's not in the book, but I'll share with the audience. 2006, I saw Les Brown speak. I was 1 year into the business full time. He was in front of 3,000 people here in Michigan. I went up to him. He autographed my little brochure. I sat in the back room. I said, someday I will share the stage with Les Brown. Fast forward a year and a half later, the Orlando Regional Chamber called and said, look, we saw you speak at a chamber event. Do you want to speak? I said, absolutely. We're going to add more speakers. Next couple months go by. I get an email. We've added more speakers, Michael Gerber and Les Brown. And you go forward a couple more months, I get in documents, my flights and everything, and here's your itinerary, and great, you need to be there a day early for dinner. I'm like, I don't usually do that. They said, no, get to the dinner. So I go to this dinner for speakers. I'm sitting with Les Brown on my left and Michael Gerber to my right, and I thought, watch what you visioned for. Watch what you think. Next day, they didn't tell me again, Les Brown opens. I'm the second speaker. I got to follow Les Brown, Lee Milteer.
Yes, I know.
Are you kidding me? And I remember I said to the audience, look, just got to tell you, it's a dream to be here. I've always wanted to share the stage with Les, but I'm not Les Brown. So I'm just going to manage your expectations. I'm from Michigan. I'm here to teach you about marketing. Can we have fun? They started laughing because I'm like, talk about what you wish, you vision, you will manifest. And since that, this is just the power of accessing and growing. I've shared the stage with Les 3 times. I've talked with him privately as faculty. I sometimes sit there and go, wow, here's the deal. If you believe it and you believe hard in your core and you do not stop, it will sometimes occur at the strangest intersections you can't see. Law of attraction is very real. It's biblical. It's ancient knowledge from Eastern cultures. It's not woo-woo voodoo. You and I have talked about that, Lee.
Quantum physics.
Absolutely. Everything's entanglement. And you sit there and go, okay, maybe I should really guard my thoughts and watch what I focus on. Dr. Napoleon Hill, you mentioned him earlier. Ben Gay III, one of the Trailblazers in the book, 4 days ago was at my event in Chicago. I interviewed him in front of our group. Like, him and I are sitting next to each other. Yeah, and he said to me, he was talking to the group, everyone's like mesmerized, pens in hand taking notes, because he hired Dr. Napoleon Hill was his coach the last 2 years before that, 1968 to 1970. Ben was CEO of Holiday Magic. They hired Napoleon Hill to coach him. He was telling us, he says, the one thing I remember that Dr. Hill would tell me, this is right from the guy that was right there. He said, Ben, if you're having a tough time as CEO, remember to keep refocusing. Focus in and always take action. Take a step. Get in motion. Don't sit. And I'm sitting, my hair is standing up in this interview right now, Lee. And I'm sitting next to really the last protege. He hired Zig to work for him. Ben was the CEO of Holiday Magic, one of the biggest MLMs in the 60s and 70s. He was 26 years old CEO. Earl Nightingale, he purchased something from Earl Nightingale that kept Nightingale Conant business. These are the type of people I get around and go, oh my God, these were the people that were before Google and YouTube making history, and he hired them all, or he did business with them. But the point is, Dr. Hill gave him those 2 nuggets. You got to focus in. That's your vision. Keep focusing. And it's harder than ever, Lee. Everyone's got their phone going. They got people interrupting. They got their phone dinging and binging. And there's people online wanting your attention. Like you said, if you don't go 3 days without responding, I think you're dead or you're crazy. But you have to lock in the age of distraction and get control and take control. Because if you don't, your vision's going to get fractured into a million pieces. And you're going to be a foot on the gas, foot on the brake, foot on the gas. And it's going to accelerate. If you don't step off the pedals and go, what am I doing? You get control of your mind will overrule you. There's too much going on. So vision and clarity extremely important.
I am all for that. Well, listen, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Well, thank you. The easiest way is to go to mindcapturegroup.com. You'll see there's ways you can get our e-letter. We do a video, message of value, the books. Thank you very much. If you're interested in Trailblazers, you can go to amazon.com, barnesnoble.com.
Thank you so much, Tony, and best
You're
of luck.
welcome.
I'm very, very proud of you because you
Thank
have
you.
done the amazing thing that just people are just too lazy to do. So thank you
my
so much.
friend.